achieve.
All right, welcome in, everybody, to Studio Day Heffrey for another glorious day of Cowboys content. And today we're going to go all over the place because you control the content. In the comments on the YouTube page, just leave me a comment on what you want to talk about tomorrow. And you guys have done an awesome job of giving me a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. And it's great because I don't always have ideas for a video. So thank you to everybody who sends in these things. And I'll read your name and talk about what you want to talk about. So thanks to everybody. You can hit me on Twitter at JC1053, on Instagram at Time4Jeffrey, and of course on YouTube, youtube.com/Jeff Kavanaugh. And you can see the videos on 1053thefan.com. The first thing I want to talk about is what multiple people have asked me this morning. They've said, hey, what about trading down for the Cowboys from number 17 and picking up an extra second-round pick? We don't know who's going to be available yet. We're not trading away from a pick that we don't know who's going to be. It is January. We're not trading down. Chill out. Also, just logistically speaking, you'll probably, for most teams, have anywhere from 15 to 21, 22 maybe, first-round grades. So if you're trading out of 17, the odds are you're trading away from a guy you've got graded as a first-round pick to pick a guy that you've got graded as a second-round pick and pick up a pick. I'm not here for that. I'm here to pick the first-round pick. We're going to have a first-round guy sitting on the board at 17, and you're going to go ahead and pull the trigger. You're going to pick that guy. It's going to be glorious. Get ready. Javon Kinlaw. You trade away from it. Maybe one of your secondary guys could hold on. Maybe a Trevon Diggs or a Christian Fulton or even a Grant Delpit or Xavier McKinney. If you love one of those guys and you know you can get him, then sure. But I don't know how you know that. Maybe I'll ask my buddy Broadus. That used to be his job, to be ready with, hey, this is who that team's going to pick. This is who that team's going to pick. And this is what we can do. So chill out with the trade downs, for crying out loud. All right. Gus, on the last video, said, how realistic is keeping Dak, Amari, and either Byron or Robert Quinn? Dak, you're keeping for sure. Amari, you're keeping pretty much for sure. I cannot see them moving on from Amari. I was talking to Broadus and Corey Majors yesterday before going on the air about Michael Gallup and like, hey, what do you think? You know, Michael Gallup, could he be that number one? I mean, he had 1,100 yards last year, right? I think that's a dangerous game to play. I don't want the Cowboys to lose Amari Cooper. Now, if you invest pretty heavily in another receiver, you could tag Amari Cooper, keep him for a year, and then see what it looks like a year from now and maybe be able to do that confidently. But I would hate to see them move on from Amari Cooper. I think the guy who is a good example for this is Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Now, he had bad quarterback play, but a lot of true number one receivers put up good numbers with bad quarterback play, and he couldn't without Antonio Brown giving him single coverage. And I think Michael Gallup, you've got to credit some of his production to Amari Cooper. And I'm the biggest Michael Gallup fan ever. I've got to throw a second pizza party for him. One, because they picked him, which I'd been campaigning for all day on day 2 of the draft, so I had to throw a pizza party. Now I got to throw another pizza party because he went over 950 yards, which was his goal last year. So I'm a Michael Gallup fan, but I don't want to see him in the role in his third year of, hey, you're a real number one receiver. No, I'm trying to be safer than that. Keep Amari for a year. Now, if they get wild and use a first-round pick on a wide receiver that you can develop, then a year from now, we can have a different conversation. But for now, I'm pretty sure they're keeping Amari Cooper. And it'll probably be a long-term deal, but at worst, I'm sure they'll tag him. Now, Byron Jones and Robert Quinn, that one's interesting because I want them to keep Byron. You gave $12 million a year to Jalen Smith. You're giving over $12 million a year to Ezekiel Elliott, but you're not in the bidding for Byron Jones? That's crazy to me. That's foolishness on the part of the Cowboys, but that money's already spent on the guys that I've already mentioned. That money's already gone, so there's nothing you can do about it, and you can't keep everybody. I think it's insane that Byron Jones is the guy who gets squeezed because I think really, really good cornerback play is important, and they're going to let him walk. So when he goes to the Eagles this year and then the Eagles beat the Cowboys to win the NFC East next year, don't be mad at me. Be mad at the Cowboys for deciding that paying Jalen and paying Zeke were great ideas and paying Byron Jones was not. Robert Quinn is interesting. Interessante. How much money did he make last year? That's the question. 11.5 sacks for a guy who a lot of teams are going to be a little bit afraid of because of age. So what does his contract look like? maybe if you could get him for something along the lines of 2 for $20, I'm in on that. I would hate for DeMarcus Lawrence to lose that threat on the other side. Maybe they'll pick up another threat in the draft, whether it's coming off the edge or whether it's a defensive tackle. But I would hate to lose Robert Quinn because I think he and Tank Lawrence give you a really nice set of defensive ends. And if you're a DeMarcus Lawrence hater, that's your own issue. He's got, over the last 3 years, like 2 less sacks than Khalil Mack and 6 more tackles for loss. So if you got a problem with Tank Lawrence, that's a you thing, not me. Let's see. Next one, Cliff Tyler said, how about Thaddeus Moss? Randy's kid. Hello. I haven't studied him yet. I've obviously watched him play live, and I think he's going to be a nice combination of a guy who's probably physical, big and physical enough to block. He doesn't look like a super athletic tight end to me. This is just live viewing. I may have a totally different report when I study him. But big body, sure hands. I'm interested in Thaddeus Moss. I don't know where people have him projected yet. Just off the top of my head, guess. What is he going to be, a third-round pick? Something like that. But I'll get him studied, and I'll get back to you. Brad Lankford says, tell me about Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims, Baylor wide receiver. He has probably had the best week at the Senior Bowl of all the receivers coming into the week. When you come out of Baylor, there's going to be big old questions about your route running ability. There was no question about his jump ball ability, about his physicality. But he's been pretty much uncoverable at the Senior Bowl, so that's got to help Denzel Mims. I could totally see him pushing his way all the way up into maybe the second round, something like that. But he's had a great week at the Senior Bowl, and he's made himself some money. He's probably gone from a third or fourth round pick to a potential second round pick, so that's great for him. From Ted Prickett, linebackers. How worried about the top end talent depth at linebacker with Lee moving on and some that aren't under contract? I think they just got too many needs to realistically invest in linebacker unless the value is way too good. I'm not afraid to invest at linebacker. But Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch are your starters. The reports are that Vander Esch is going to be fine and he's going to be ready to rock when it's time for off-season stuff and when it's time for training camp. So you're locked in with a first-round pick and a $12 million a year guy. So I don't see them using a pick on a linebacker. Although there are a few that I really like in this draft. Isaiah Simmons, if he made it to 17, I don't care who's on my roster. I'm picking him. That's done, and done. And then my next guys are Kenneth Murray at OU and Patrick Queen at LSU. I could see both of them potentially going at the end of the first round. But Isaiah Simmons is special enough, the Clemson guy, that I would take him. I don't care. I'll make it work. He's my strong safety and a nickel linebacker and a whatever. I'd make that work. Would you take a wideout in the later rounds, and if so, who you like? That is from Brayloni and Cheese. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I would, and this is going to be the deepest wide receiver group I think I've ever seen in a draft. I've only watched 11 guys so far at wide receiver, plus some of these guys that I've been seeing at the Senior Bowl, and I'll take all of them. I will take CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Jalen Reagor and T. Higgins and Michael Pittman and Laviska Shenault and Brandon Ayuk and KJ Hamler and Devin Duvernay and Colin Johnson and Denzel Mims and blah, 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 blah. I'll take all of them. This is going to be the deepest wide receiver crop that I've ever seen in a draft, and I guess this is my 6th year doing this, something like that. You can find a receiver. We'll find a receiver in the 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th round. From Brian, hey, Jeff, on your next video, can you talk about Byron Jones and free agency? My question, will the Cowboys absolutely go after Byron? Do you think the Cowboys take into consideration their rival, the Eagles, might sign him this offseason? And most importantly, would you sign or tag him? I would sign Byron Jones. It doesn't sound like the Cowboys, based on hearing Will McClay yesterday, it doesn't sound like the Cowboys are going to be all that worried about Byron Jones. So if his market is big, I think he's gone, and I hate it. Antonio, this is a really good question. Antonio Morosini? No, you're not high on Pro Football Focus grades, but Curtis Weaver, the edge from Boise State, and Jordan Elliott from Mizzou have crazy high pass rush win rates, yet I'm hearing some low first-round grades on Weaver and almost nothing at all on Elliott. Potential sleepers, or are the media scouts just not caught up yet? Curtis Weaver I struggle with because the way he's built is interesting. I actually heard him talk about it. He's like, I showed up as a fat kid, and I still think he has work to do on his body. But he's the conference's all-time leading sack guy. I think he had 13 last year or 13 and a half, something like that. But he had a bunch of 2- and 3-sack games against guys who aren't going to be playing NFL football. He just runs around guys that are bad tackles. He wouldn't have been able to do that against a different level of competition. So I struggled with Curtis Weaver. I've got him as like a third-round guy. So if he goes higher than that, that's cool, and maybe I'll be wrong. But I don't see him the way that a lot of people do that are really, really high on him. Jordan Elliott, the Missouri D tackle, he doesn't have a lot of production either. And he's laid off the ball, and he plays too high, and I won him with the second-round pick. That's just how physically gifted I think he is. Like, he plays with bad technique, pops straight up, and guys can't move him. And he finds his way into the backfield. I think Jordan Elliott, the Missouri D tackle, is a really fun guy to try to stouten up, to try to help the D tackle position. Love Jordan Elliott. Hey, Jeff, last draft season, this is from Jacob Lavers. I was excited when Taylor Rapp and Juan Thornhill were on the board. Me too. In the second round, of course, we know what happened, but could you tell me how does Rapp Thornhill stack up to Delpit? Thanks, love the show. Well, they've already had NFL success, so I'm trying not to let that blur it. I view Delpit as a better prospect than either of those, and I know that because I had them both as second-round guys, and I've got Delpit as a 1-2. So I think Delpit's got the potential to be a better player. I think he's a better prospect, but those guys have already been good in the NFL, which is kind of cheating. But Delpit graded out higher for me. Sergio on Twitter, who would have a bigger immediate impact on the Cowboys between Javon, Kinlaw, or Grant Delpit? I think Kinlaw is a for sure first-round grade. Now, he's done at the Senior Bowl because of, what do they say, tendonitis, I believe, in his knee. And I'd actually heard whispers to keep an eye on his knee or knees a couple weeks ago. So that's a little bit worrisome, but hopefully he's fine, and it's just a, hey, I showed you what I want to show you, and now I'm just going to be really safe. But I'd heard whispers about Kinlaw's knees, which is a little bit worrisome, but he's a stud of a prospect. He's a monster. So Kinlaw would have a bigger immediate impact. Dang, I got a lot more questions, but I'm out of time. So leave yours in the comments on the YouTube page. Make sure you're checking 1053thefan.com every day. Whatever question you would like answered, leave it in the comments. Gives me easy content for tomorrow's video. I love you guys. I'll catch you on the radio. And here is a wink for you.